Hello everyone, it's Richard Lewis here with another video, and today I'm going to be talking about one of the kind of biggest dramas. I'm loath to call it that. I think that's a really reductive term about what's happening because it's very important. But anyway, I'm going to talk about Pewdiepie and everything that happened to him. Now, I'm sure if you're stumbling across this video and you don't know who I am, you're going to say, well, why should I care about your views about it? That's fine. And certainly, I think a lot of people have put videos out. It's a topic worth talking about. It's very important that I think people push back against what happened to PewDiePie and understand the motivations about it. But that's why I wanted to put a video out. It may be a little bit late, maybe a little bit behind the curve, but I think I'm uniquely positioned to talk about it because, first of all, I've been a journalist for these kind of publications that have taken to attacking kind of counterculture icons or people guilty of wrongthink or whatever you want to call it. I know how they operate internally. And also as well, you know, I'm somebody who's been a big proponent of free speech. I'm somebody that kind of cashed in all my liberal credentials when I went to work for Breitbart. I knew that was going to happen. I knew a lot of people would distance themselves from me because they would believe erroneously that somehow being in the tech section of Breitbart made me a fascist or a Nazi or some of the ludicrous label that doesn't apply to me. But, you know, this, like I tweeted at the time, this shows one thing about the mainstream media. They are going to use everything in their power, their entire arsenal, to take down targets that they believe are important, influential, who aren't spreading the message that they want. And I want to start by talking about that. Now, as somebody that was educated and wanted to very much be a journalist for the longest period of time. It was the dream job when I was hustling away with shit office jobs. I was doing it on the side. It's what I've always wanted to do, and I've always taken it very seriously, perhaps too seriously, some people might say. But I believe in that idea of the journalist as the truth teller, the fourth estate, all of those things that you see in movies and everything else that, you know, they have an important role to play in society, and you have a very almost sacred ethical code, and you mustn't violate it, no matter what happens. And such violations are almost certainly context dependent, I suppose, but almost unforgivable if you take on the mantle of journalist. Now, what I quickly realized was I went from doing being a sports columnist and writing lifestyle articles for kind of a small startup, and I'd written a few things here and there and done some, you know, gaming pieces and of course some blogging, because everyone does that now. And eventually, through my work in competitive gaming, I got into the Daily Dot. Now, the Daily Dot is a very progressive publication. And I think we agreed politically on a lot of stuff. But where I started having problems was this idea of absolute freedom of speech. I remember writing an article about an issue on Reddit. Now, you may remember the Fat People Hate subreddit and how it got banned and all of that stuff. Well, I wrote an article about that where I interviewed some of the, you know, people and basically said how it wasn't harassment and this kind of thing. And I filed the copy. And what they put out was very radically, well, not radically, but it had very serious alterations. They put phrases in that were not mine. They used words that were not mine. They put thoughts in there that were not mine. And they did this without consultation. I only found out because after the article went live, people messaged me that I'd interviewed, and they were like, well, why is that there? Do you think that? And I was like, well, absolutely not. I didn't write that at all. An example of this would be one of the people I interviewed had the words Gamergate in their name. So my editor, or the editor of the section, not the editor I worked directly under, who was a perfectly fine journalist, but the editor of the section that the work was going out under, had put in Gamergate is a movement designed to harass online feminists and all. And I was like, what? Well, first of all, that's completely wrong. Second of all, I don't believe that. And third, it's not even relevant to what the article's about. Why is it in there? And of course, it was virtue signaling. It was. They didn't want anybody to think that a Daily Dot journalist might feel and think, a different way to the overall tone of the publication. And then the real thing that made me get out and eventually join Breitbart was about Tim Hunt, the scientist who was completely falsely accused of making sexist jokes by a again, I'm loath to use the term, but a journalist, somebody who teaches people how to be a journalist. And she was proven to be a liar after the emergence of a recording. And I wrote this up, and I had called the university she worked at and tried to get a comment, and they were like, we don't feel it proves it. Anyway, so whatever. I wrote this article, and the Daily Dot wouldn't publish it. They said, we don't feel comfortable writing anything that might go after someone's job. Well, of course, that previous week, I think they'd gone after Whoopi Goldberg for being a rape apologist because she said Bill Cosby was innocent until proven guilty or whatever. So they will go after jobs. And this is what I realized. Journalism was dead. I mean, journalism in the purest sense of reporting the facts or trying to give a voice to disenfranchised people, trying to get to the truth, it was dead. What we were left with was a form of activism. We were left with journalists who wanted to use their platform to kind of push agendas and push issues that they felt were right, that were passionate about. And what was happening was editors weren't preventing them doing this because editors felt the same way. And you would quickly recruit a group of people that all held the same ideologies. They would exist in an echo chamber, and they would be sharing information, sharing leads, and sharing sources. And they would put out this blanket coverage that had a very clear political tone, and nobody was going to stop it. And the good thing is, of course, it will get you traffic because it appeals to people who believe the same thing you do. It doesn't challenge anybody. Those people will click on it, read that article, feel validated, and they get to go on about their day believing they're the good guys. And this is not journalism. This is awful. And unfortunately, this is what modern journalism has become. And I quickly realized it. And that's why with this Pewdiepie thing, sorry, this is a long introduction to kind of preface what I'm going to talk about, but I just wanted to give my credentials just in case people who haven't watched my videos before don't know them. A lot of people are trying to explain away this war on YouTubers and new media as being motivated out of fear. Now, yes, they've definitely got good cause to be worried. You see articles like this popping up all the time. And there it is. Right. Yes, Tech Dirt mysteriously banned from most default subreddits for being a blog. You can see reports like this from 2015. YouTubers get to interview the president because they're more legitimate than traditional news. And, people just got super upset about it. This little op-ed here sort of ends with the legacy media players may not like it, but mainly because it rips down the facade they've been living behind for so long, the facade that pretends they're all about objective news reporting, when the reality has long been they're more focused on being seen as important, the gatekeepers of the news. But the news has no more gatekeepers, and the public seems to prefer honesty rather than made-up objectivity. The view from nowhere now means that many people, especially younger people, see those newscasters as being nowhere at all. And that's why it completely makes sense for the White House to reach out to those people who are real, who have built up trust, and who will continue to be real, even if they ask questions that the mainstream media considers beneath them. Now, that's a fair encapsulation of the issue, and I think fear is actually a pretty good motivator. I think it's a very good primary motivator. If you're afraid of losing your livelihood, if you're afraid of not being able to put food on the table, look after the kids, keep a roof above your head, whatever it might be, you will be susceptible to, well, do I take the money? Do I write this way? Do I really want to lose this job? Do I want to push back at this editor like I did at the Daily Dot and said, this is absolutely disgusting. I'm out. I'm done. I can't continue here. Obviously, that's one element of it. I agree. There's probably many journalists that are afraid of the rise of new media, the rise of new journalists, the rise of people who get their news in the form of Philip DeFranco and people like this. It's a bit strange to apply that logic to PewDiePie, though, because PewDiePie doesn't do news. I mean, I don't want to call him a comedian. I think he's an entertainer. I think he moves through genres. Full disclosure, I think I've said PewDiePie actually kind of sucks in the past. Back when he was, I'm an old guy, I've got grey in the beard. I don't want to see a Let's Play guy pretending to be frightened by a game or screaming, giving me a fucking migraine. I don't want to see that. But somewhere along the line, PewDiePie grew up, developed his material, started vlogging, got red-pilled, and now he's talking about stuff that I can relate to, and I actually enjoy his content. So I don't want to call him a comedian. I almost think that's kind of a little bit dismissive. It gives a very easy out for people who want to make a defense for him, even if they don't feel comfortable with what he said. I don't want that. I don't want that out. I'm going to absolutely defend what he did, not using comedy as the out. And I'm going to explain why these people are going after him. So that brings me on to the next point, which is this isn't fear as the primary motivator. I'll tell you, go talk to a journalist. I talk to them every day. They are not afraid. They are not afraid of the death of print media. Most of these people work in what is considered to be new media. They have social media presences. They are interested in becoming celebrities themselves. They are very happy to be front and center of the story, have huge followings, resort to clickbait, to say outlandish statements on Twitter. But it's virtue signaling stuff. It's very leftist and progressive. No one ever calls that out. No one ever says, hang on a minute, you should actually dial that fucking down and just do your work and let the work speak for itself. Nobody says this because it's the right kind of politics. For everything that Milo Yiannopoulos is criticized for, I see leftist journalists do it every day. They've just got a different message, therefore the methodology is okay. Remember this recurring phrase, there are no bad tactics, only bad targets. We will engage in the behavior we condemn in others because we're doing it for good reasons. And this poisonous thinking in the left has obviously spilled over to leftist journalists, to progressive journalists. So there's an arrogance there. And this isn't what people are talking about. Coupled with this activism, there's an arrogance. They want to take down these targets. They will use their journalism as a weapon. Let's think about what's been happening in the election cycle recently. They have managed to successfully portray a billionaire, a successful billionaire, somebody who just a few years ago was considered an amusing reality TV star, never had any scandals put out there about him, was never condemned for being racist, a sex offender, whatever made up story it is this week. They've managed to get a sizable portion of the population thinking this man is the next Hitler. And yet, nobody can explain, well, if he's a dictator and a fascist, why is there a free press that's allowed to point that out? That nobody can really answer that dichotomy. But this is the arrogance. This is the arrogance of the mainstream media. And this is why I won't give them a pass for operating out of fear either. They are arrogant. They are targeting people, and they are going to take them down one by one. And they will use all of their energy and all of their methods and all of their reach and all of their power to do it. And they believe they're doing good. Now, understand this isn't what journalism really should be about at all. Sure, take down a corrupt, untouchable politician. Sure, give a platform to whistleblowers to get their stuff out there, like Snowden. These are important pieces of journalism. This is journalism as it should be. This is when journalism should be weaponized, when it's used against the people that are untouchable by any other medium. This doesn't apply to PewDiePie. This doesn't apply to Milo Yiannopoulos. This doesn't apply to YouTubers. This is like trying to kill a fly with a sledgehammer. That's what they're doing. And I sort of almost, I don't want to say this, but I kind of believe it's true. All the people who feel that PewDiePie is untouchable because he's got 50 million subscribers, trust me, that's a great platform. That's a platform that exceeds all of these publications. And I'm sure there is some envy there. But trust me, they will keep going until he loses everything unless he shows contrition. Understand that. It's every joke, it's every line, it's every conversation he's ever said. It's paying people in his past to come out and give stories. He's in a war. He might not know it. He might think he's well positioned to win it. Maybe he is. I'm not as optimistic because this brand of arrogant activist journalists will not stop. They will not stop. They have weaponized their platforms, and that's what they're all about. So let's just start by looking at what's, sparked it all. And this was the Wall Street Journal report. It was a Wall Street Journal report that from nowhere just decided to take it upon itself to break down PewDiePie's videos and dig out the anti-Semitic humor. Now, let's get this out there right from the fucking get-go. One of the journalists involved in this report himself had made anti-Semitic jokes in a public setting. You will notice the name Ben Fritz is there, and there you can see, just attended my first Hanukkah party, had no idea Jews were so adept at frying. That is a clear reference to the Holocaust. That is a clear reference to the final solution. That is talking about Jews being systematically murdered during World War II. Now, I'm a big believer in comedy. I think you can make jokes about difficult subjects. I think that's a terrible joke. I don't think it's particularly funny. What I find interesting is, sure, it's from 2009, but isn't it odd how people want the benefit of the doubt when they say things, but they will never give that to these people who they portray as unilaterally evil? This is actually one of the key things here. This happens all of the time. So this journalist, or one of the journalists involved in this report, basically took it upon themselves to go out there and do what they framed it like it was an expose. This wasn't a fucking expose at all. This was a fucking, we as a bunch of idiots have nothing better to do, so we went through PewDiePie's videos because we saw something he did was slightly controversial. So we took it upon ourselves, there's Ben Fritz, by the way, we took it upon ourselves to go through all of his videos. And what PewDiePie had done was he'd done a goof, and I've done this, similar things on my YouTube show, Trash Talk. We used to hire people from Fiverr, right, which is a website that I guess you could look at it as slightly exploitative if you wanted, but it enables people from around the world to basically do anything for $5. And you can make more than $5, you can make demands. And we hired people to pretend to be others. We hired people to pretend to be people's girlfriends. We hired people from countries that didn't have a great economy to dance around wearing signs. And PewDiePie did this, and PewDiePie did it to say death to all Jews. Now, his point, and indeed, if you look at the context of the comedy, was just to show how crazy shit can be. Like, would somebody actually be able to, would somebody do this for $5? And yeah, they did. I mean, I don't see this as like a fucking, wild or uncharted territory. What will people do for money? There's pornography that explores this option. Do you remember the bum fights controversy? I do. What are people willing to do for money? There's multiple videos on YouTube from prank stars that make people do things that look really unconscionable, just awful things for money. Right? And that's all that's happening here. Would you really wear a sign saying death to all Jews for $5? Now, honestly, nobody's even explored the option as to whether those people could read the sign or anything like that. No one cares. I mean, I believe those people even got removed from Fiverr. I don't know if they were reinstated. But certainly, I think we can agree PewDiePie perhaps didn't think this through. But that said, this is somebody who has explored this type of comedy before. Now, in this Wall Street Journal thing, they managed to find 9 videos, apparently, that include anti-Semitic jokes on Nazi imagery. Well, these things can be, all can be explained. At no point has PewDiePie made a video saying, I hate the Jews must be eradicated for the good of mankind. No, he's never said this because he doesn't believe that. And no one with a brain believes that. PewDiePie's an intelligent and successful human being. I certainly don't think he, feels that way. So anti-Semitism is quite a charge for wearing a Nazi uniform. I mean, do we make that charge for every actor that does it? Oh no, the context matters. Okay. What about people who have used blackface to make a point about racism? Oh well, yeah, I guess context matters. Nobody's looked at the context. Wall Street Journal wasn't interested in the context. That's what you got. So that report goes out. And I'll tell you, this is also, by the way, how you can spot a hit piece, just if you want to know. If I didn't know better, I would say the Wall Street Journal. Probably there's some people who maybe have friends over at Disney or whatever and got talking about it, and this is how it rolled up the chain. But this is how you spot a hit piece. A hit piece is when something that's already been out in the public domain for a long time and has generated no organic controversy of its own. It has generated nothing organically, as in people weren't outraged. The day that video went out, I look at Twitter every day. That's what I do. And there was nothing. Nobody was really that upset about it. There was a couple, the little Reddit threads, usual whiners, but it didn't steamroll. It wasn't a controversy. I think PewDiePie had kind of, explained it and probably wasn't going to do it again anyway, because he kind of felt the joke missed the mark a little bit and maybe did offend some people. Because that's also something you do with comedy. Obviously, you push a boundary, you see what works, you see what doesn't. But as I said, I'm not going to keep calling it comedy. He put something out there in a video as an entertainer to make a point, and that's that. I mean, he's entitled to do it. Within the context of what he did, nobody could construe it as racist or anti-Semitic. So this is clearly a hate piece, because then what they also did was they didn't just look at the incident in isolation. They went through his entire history. That's why there's so many names on that article. They're all the researchers. They're the people who dug into it. They sat down, drinking coffee. We're going to get PewDiePie. We're going to show he's an anti-Semitic. So they build a case. They're not writing about news. This isn't reportage. And yet what's interesting is they're framing it like it's a big expose, a scoop, that they discovered this. Well, you and 10 million other motherfuckers who watched all of his videos. Do you really think that you have a hot take on it that somebody else who watched that video didn't? You don't. You're not that smart. You're not that important. But again, it's that arrogance. So they think they've come up with something big. And then through their channels, because, business and journalism, it's all intertwined. Business, politics, journalism, business. This is how it works. This is the triangle. Obviously, they get it out there to Disney. And then Disney are like, well, fucking hell, this isn't going to go away. They're going to keep writing follow-up pieces. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. We'd actually rather like to keep PewDiePie. But this is the outrage culture we live in. It's untenable. We must get rid of him. And they do. And what's interesting is the Wall Street Journal, again, this is another sign it's a hit piece. Because when you, and I've heard this explicitly from people in my time, when you take somebody down with a hit piece, you must celebrate it. You must justify it. You must look like you have achieved something good. Because the reportage, it can't just speak for itself, right? I mean, like, if you just write a story, like you expose political corruption, politician goes to jail, you don't write an article saying, we did it, yeah, woo! Well, you don't need to do that, do you? Because that's your function, right? Hit pieces, though, it's more kind of, it's dark, it's grey. Not everyone's going to agree at you taking someone's livelihood away, costing people money for clicks, for frivolous reasons, over stories that may or may not matter. They only matter when filtered through the prism in your brain, right? So what do? They put articles out that say, well, look at all the good things we achieved. So here's again, Wall Street Journal, just to show, yeah, it was a hit piece all along. The PewDiePie incident means more scrutiny, for influencers. So this is a good thing. This is a good thing. Because now these influencers are going to get more scrutiny, and they should be scrutinized, frankly. They absolutely should be scrutinized. And we don't want anti-Semitics making money, and lots of money at that. So yes, we've done it, guys. Thank you. We are the people that's going to do it. We've even got to admit in this little tagline here that ad buyers, doubt marketers will pull budgets from all YouTube influencers. But we did it. We achieved a good thing. And of course you didn't. You You're just pieces of shit. I mean, you know, you just went after somebody. And again, not even equally. Journalist involved in the initial report gets to make an anti-Semitic joke. No problem. Entertainer with 50+ million subscribers and millions in the bank makes a, you know, similar joke, actually less offensive, if we're being honest about it. Got to lose it. Got to be punished. Got to be penalized. So, let's move on to Polygon. Now, Polygon is a fucking disgrace. I mean, it's just a disgraceful publication. It should be swallowed up and into the by the ground and into the depths of hell. And if you write for Polygon, you are effectively saying, I've given up. I do not care anymore. I don't care about journalism. I don't care about anything. I simply care about some vague form of internet celebrity. Polygon are just appalling. Always makes me laugh. I always felt Polygon was kind of worse than Kotaku. I think the subreddit should be called Polygon in Action, but whatever. So you can see the editor of Polygon, Ben Kuchera, who is someone who seems to be seriously mentally disturbed, honestly. He has basically sanctioned Polygon to do blanket coverage on this issue. Now, why is this issue so important to keep piling on a Pewdiepie? The Wall Street Journal did their report. He's been penalized. Disney have severed their ties. Maybe you write a follow-up story about that. And, well, I guess we all better be careful what we say, because that, for me, is the prevailing message. And then you just move on with it. But Polygon have covered this on an almost daily basis, and it is fueled by the demented mind of Ben Kuchera. Ben Kuchera, who must have had a psychotic break or something at some point, now takes it upon himself to basically, you know, police language and everything else on the internet. This is his, like, noble calling now. And obviously, just to give you a bit of insight into his brain, I've had my own run-ins with him, of course. He likes to tell you what words you can and can't use on the internet. Like I say, that is his hobby. Look at this. To Ben Kuchera. I wrote a very long thing about why the argument of context is such utter bullshit. So here is Goonie Beard Man, Ben Kuchera, saying context doesn't matter at all. So, okay, maybe you're right there, Ben. Maybe context shouldn't matter. Well, let's have a look. Somebody on the internet whose name escapes me. Apologies about that. Correct sourcing and all. But they compiled some of Ben Kuchera's greatest hits, if you like. So let's go through them. Ben Kuchera, this is 2007. A discussion on a forum here. Rape my wife and I kill you. Easy as that, and I wouldn't spend a day in jail. Ben Kuchera said, why? Rape is funny. So rape is funny. I guess we just ignore that context. I now feel comfortable using Ben Kuchera's logic. Ben Kuchera is a rape advocate. He thinks it's funny. Therefore, as it's funny, there should be no consequences for it. And therefore, it's okay to do it. So Ben Kuchera, is, by his own logic, is a rape advocate. Shame on you, Ben. Because context doesn't matter. Remember that. Let's go down here. This is the other thing he says. Ben Kuchera, this is in 2005. You could always be really different and get something pierced, or maybe a mohawk. That'll show corporate America you won't play their games. Or just stop being a poser and become an abortion doctor, or gas a Jew. You know, there you go. He even advocates about how swastika's been a symbol for a long time. And so therefore it's okay to use a swastika. So again, by Ben Kuchera's logic, he's telling people to go gas the Jews, and swastikas are okay. So that's it by his own logic. Here he is again, talking about black people, and he says here, if you're in trying to make your life better, you emulate the look you see on MTV from rap videos, and you speak like a fuckwit, yes, you're a retard. A retard from the gutter who isn't interested in doing anything but staying where you are, and that's what you'll do. So he blames black people who like rap music for their own poverty. He is condemning black people who live in crime-ridden ghettos and in poverty and say it's their fault because they're fuckwits and they deserve to be there. So again, Ben Kuchera, I think we can say here, is actually almost a white supremacist. I mean, this is the kind of thing white supremacists say. So by his own logic, divorced from context, he's a white supremacist. Ben Kuchera here, he says transsexuals should be called trannies, a term that the left has been trying to take away from people and saying is derogatory. He also says here, to use the N-word, I have to be a drug dealer. You can also say here, he talks further about transsexuals. Fuck your blind acceptance of every sexuality under the sun while not putting any thought into it. And on and on and on and on it goes. That's Ben Kuchera, ladies and gentlemen. That's the guy who's running this blanket coverage against PewDiePie. So it's interesting, isn't it, that context is bullshit, Ben? It's interesting because if that is the case, and understand there's no statute of limitations on what you say. Milo's found that out. PewDiePie is finding that out. Other YouTubers have found that out. Doesn't matter how far back in your past it is. Doesn't matter it's been a decade, mate. You are a rape advocate, a white supremacist, and possibly a racist, and many other things. By your logic, context doesn't matter. So, Ben Kuchera somehow is the editor of Polygon, despite having said all of those things. And let's try and get into the embarrassingly blanket coverage. First of all, I'm going to try and do this in order. So let's start with this one. Now, I'm not going to use archive links because sometimes it fucks it up. So this is actually going to double Polygon's clicks for the month. And I apologize for that, but let's just go into it. So here you have it. This is by Charlie Hall. You can see here. Oh, yeah, thank you, ads. Disney severs ties with PewDiePie after anti-Semitic videos, and it's updated here. So this is a report where it says, so look, they're holding up death to Jews, and Hitler did absolutely nothing wrong, and make America great again hat. So once again, it's that conflation of Trump, Nazis, alt-right, everything else. They start talking about sponsors. This is where you see immediately what they're going after. Disney got rid of him, but then why bring G2A into it? I mean, I think they're an appalling sponsor, but they're going to go after the sponsors. You can see here, Maker Studios, obviously that's the Disney-owned component. Although Felix has created a following by being provocative and irreverent, he clearly went too far in this case. The resulting videos are inappropriate. Okay, I guess thanks for telling us where the line is. Some have been pointing to my videos, and this is obviously PewDiePie's response. Some have been pointing to my videos and saying I'm giving credibility to the anti-Semitic movement. I was trying to show how crazy the modern world is, specifically some of the services available online. So I think it's important to say something, and I want to make one thing clear. I'm no way supporting any kind of hateful attitudes. I make videos for my audience. I think the content that I create is entertainment and not a place for any serious political commentary. I know my audience understand that, and that is why they come to my channel. This was not my intention. I understand that these jokes are ultimately offensive. So you can see as well, YouTube cancelled PewDiePie's reality show. And they even had the audacity by throwing G2A in there to pressure G2A, an unethical sponsor, by their own right, like the multiple videos on these guys. So look, G2A, the advertising partner, gave them a statement. We're going to take everything. PewDiePie is a charismatic and extremely popular entertainer who, like every entertainer out there, is sometimes surrounded by controversies. PewDiePie has his own specific style of entertainment, which, like with any of our partners, at times we agree with and at times we don't. So this is just one of the times you don't. What's the problem? We absolutely do not condone or support insensitive behaviour of any kind, be it racist, anti-Semitic or discriminatory in any way. This time, PewDiePie's video ultimately went too far. His actions in it were simply wrong. With that being said, we also have known about PewDiePie for a number of years and know he's neither anti-Semitic nor did he mean to offend anyone with his actions. He understands his mistake as he's removed the offensive material from his channel. And they point out to the good work he did. So G2A, an unethical sponsor of the people, that have PewDiePie's back. I mean, definitely it's just about money for them, sure. But they actually push back against that bullshit. But why even give these people a statement? It's nonsense. If you know somebody is an anti-Semitic and the charge is that they're anti-Semitic, you just ignore the charge. It's gibberish. It's nonsense. So that was where they started. And you can see they were really like, yeah, let's get the pressure going. Let's do it. And then they followed it up with this article. Again, this is how you know. Hit pieces. Classic. So they followed it up with this. And think about what they're trying to imply here. Charlie Hall again. Fiverr is the Israeli company that PewDiePie used to promote anti-Semitism. So it talks about Fiverr here and how it's an Israeli company. And you can see here it does confirm that they did get reinstated. But there you go. Fiverr, yep. Fiverr are Jews, and PewDiePie is subverting what they do and making them say anti-Semitic stuff. PewDiePie is the devil. Well, again, I think most people just issued a jaw-breaking fucking yawn at this point. Because, yeah, we get it, right? PewDiePie made a fucking bad joke, whatever. Like, holy shit. Can we leave it there? Well, no, the media can't leave it there. Polygon certainly can't. On they go again. So look at this. Enter the big final boss of the internet. It's Ben fucking Kuchera. So, Ben Kuchera, PewDiePie versus the media. Right? Why he's so mad to be losing the fight. This is like, you know, children. Okay, this is like fucking Starscream from Transformers. You know, haha, you're losing, you're gonna lose. He's not losing, is he? I mean, he's infinitely more successful than Ben Kuchera is ever going to be. He's infinitely more successful than Polygon's ever going to be. I mean, Polygon eventually, this is what's going to happen. It's going to swirl down the toilet and get shut down. That is the way of all of these publications. They're just walking dinosaurs. They just don't understand it yet. That's how it's going to end for them. And I can't wait. I can't wait to think about Ben Kuchera struggling to put food on the table, struggling to pay his rent, struggling to make ends meet. I'm actually going to enjoy that. And I wouldn't say that flippantly because I think that's quite a poor thing to say. But you've done it to others. What goes around comes around. I do like a nice bit of karma. So PewDiePie versus the media. Why he's so mad to be losing the fight? I mean, there's some gems in here. He's talking about, you know, again, his earnings, because you have to preface this. I'll tell you this. Do you know why you put the earnings in all the time? Because it makes the average person hate him. This is why you constantly talk about the millions and the millions that PewDiePie has in the bank, because it's a very good way to dehumanize someone. If they have millions, they're not like you and me. They're elite. They are rich. They are wealthy. They are scum. PewDiePie's a fucking YouTuber, dude. I mean, considering his personal wealth, he's probably as down to earth as it's going to get. And as somebody that works on TV, you know, I consider myself down to earth. I think this new generation of new media has a level of connection with fans and almost, you know, we can't fall into some of the pitfalls, at least, of traditional celebrities. Certainly, I think we feel very connected to our fans and community. So you have to constantly talk about the money. He's not like you. He's got millions in the bank. He still goes to fucking small shit events and signs autographs for hours at a time. Still actually connects with his fans. But whatever, he's not like you and me. He lives in a mansion, swimming in his millions like Scrooge McDuck. So they constantly bring that up. And you can see, look, he feels unjustly targeted. He's the real victim here, he argues. Not the marginalised groups he targets in his shock humour. Ben Kuchera wants to reclaim the word trannies, then talks about marginalised groups. He's not responsible for any of these controversies by creating these videos. The media is for reporting on them. Well, that's absolutely true. This was a manufactured outrage by the media. That's undeniable. And he brings up the FTC thing, which has been universally debunked, by the way. And we get into that. PewDiePie isn't the target of hostile news outlets. He's a powerful, wealthy individual with a massive audience. Again, we're punching up, people. We're punching up. You're not. You're dogpiling on a YouTuber trying to turn your audience against him. That is all you're doing. You're not punching up. He's a YouTuber. I don't know how influential you think he is. He might have reach, but he's, you know, he's not going to be president one day, you know? It's ridiculous, the idea that you're punching up here. It's almost like Polygon and Kotaku sitting in the corner of my videos being like, come on, say something bad about gaming so we can get it on this shit. Get in on this shit, he stated. He doesn't just want to see himself as the victim of unfair coverage. He wants you to think criticism of his sense of humor is itself somehow dangerous. Well, no, nobody thinks that. You can definitely criticize him. I don't think anyone's would be upset if you'd written op-eds about it. Just one, maybe. Using genocide as a punchline. Same man who said gas the Jews. You know, he's spun this into just a ridiculous, nonsensical context. Brings up, you know, Jesus saying Hitler did nothing wrong. Guy who looks like Jesus. And then this. PewDiePie's love of far right-wing humor is doing real damage. And he said, white supremacists don't see it that way. That was in response to PewDiePie distancing himself. Neo-Nazi and white supremacist site The Daily Storm has been gleefully supporting PewDiePie's ongoing habit of exposing his audience to anti-Semitic images and jokes, seeing Kjellberg's videos as a path to their beliefs gaining legitimacy and a wider audience of young people. So, this is the other thing they do, guilt by association. Classic tactic, guilt by association. If a white supremacist comes out and says, hey, I like you, then you are guilty of white supremacy. Simple as that. Now, interestingly enough, the Daily Storm, and I will not link to that site because I do not endorse their views, they actually said, we love the Wall Street Journal. They changed their banner to say we support PewDiePie to we support the Wall Street Journal. And now I guess that means the Wall Street Journal are white supremacist enablers. I mean, again, you've got to follow the logic through. They never do. They can't blanketly apply the logic. The logic just means whatever they want it to mean in that minute, and then they can invert it and carry on business as usual. So Ben Kuchera thinks he's laid down the fucking smackdown there, but still, PewDiePie still wakes up. He's still got a channel. His fans still support him. You know, it's infuriating for these guys. So we got to keep trying to take him down. We must get the PewDiePie. Dare I do a German accent there? Right. So look. Here it comes again. So out of nowhere, interestingly enough, because a lot of people were making the point, why is it okay for one branch of comedy to make anti-Semitic jokes? Cartman, for example, you know, constantly talking about, you know, Kyle, the Jew, and all of this. Why does PewDiePie get attacked and South Park gets a pass for anti-Semitic jokes? Now, this is a great point. This is logic. So Ben Kuchera has to come out again, has to come out of his fucking, you know, language police chamber, his lair, slithered out, and here he is again. He has to now. No, listen though. Yep, you've got a point there, but I'm going to tell you why you don't have a point. It takes skill to turn hatred into humor. It takes skill. This guy is so fucking stupid. Okay, he couldn't even make the point himself. He had to take a comment. Oh, this is so fucking stupid. He couldn't make the point himself, so he had to take a comment that someone else wrote to express his thoughts. Also, as well, validation, you know, appeal. Oh, look, other people are saying what I think it's true. Ultimately, I think his greatest failing is he's a hack. Felix is just a bad writer. There are people who touch on this material in infinitely more dark and more disturbing ways, but don't catch the blowback he does. The reason he doesn't catch the blowback is they do it well. They tackle the matter that is clear and address the content in a way that illustrates a point. When we dissect the most recent bit that caused the implosion of his career, it's simply bad comedy on many levels. He starts by taking advantage of individuals who are poor and don't speak English particularly well, so we're starting from a place of abusive privilege. In comedy terms, he's starting by punching down. In fact, I'd say he's going so far as to be doing a pile driver down, given he's a multimillionaire who's taking advantage of some Indian dudes who do dances for $5 a pop. He then doubles down by using the ridiculously offensive death to Jews sign, dissecting that he's making fun of their language skills and stating a hateful remark. His punchline is he pulls a face and laughs. From a comedy standpoint, that's not a joke. It's a rich white douche being a rich white douche. There is no satire here. There is no comedy. He's making fun of poor people and using them to propagate hate. He may think he's being funny and can even vaguely I could even vaguely have given him the benefit of the doubt and believe he thinks he's doing a bit of satire, though given this has happened 8 times before, didn't, in some variation in earlier videos, and he's already said he's going to try to reform his platform. I don't believe it. This isn't satire. It's not even a joke, really. It is, again, in comedy parlance, hack. That's not comedy parlance, by the way. A hack has a couple of definitions. One is someone who steals another person's material, arguably being a rich white douche pranking people he's stealing Ashton Kutcher's life. The second is a cheap and unoriginal punchline. The term hack actually comes from journalism, funnily enough. His entire structure is hack from the material on down. Further, he doesn't have any of the supporting structure you need for good satire. So there you go. He's like, yeah, well, look. And then, just to make my point even stronger, I'm going to use a meme. Why wouldn't I use a meme? Heil Hitler, fuck off Nazi, haha, idiot normies, jokes on them, I was only pretending. Look. Somebody else on Twitter. So, the first myth we should put to bed is that South Park gets a free pass on comedy. It does not. Then he talks about some of the things that it didn't get a free pass on. Certainly, no, I can't remember South Park ever having to come out and publicly justify, you was thinking you, Kyle. You know, I don't really remember it. And then, yeah, the Passion of the Christ, the whole Christ-killing element of anti-Semitism, this kind of thing. You know, constant Cartman as Hitler. You know, these things are on a par with what PewDiePie did. They're funnier, they're more well-written, but I don't think these should be crimes in and of themselves. But on Ben Kuchera goes to basically talk about controversial comedy. Now, the left, they've been at war with comedy for a long, long time because you can't control it. And it's okay for some people to say some things and others not to. Sarah Silverman can make, you know, Jewish jokes and rape jokes or whatever. Basically, they're saying if you're from a group, it's okay to make jokes, even about other groups. It's just ridiculous. The logic's insane. It's either going to be all okay or none of it's okay, and that's the only real logical thing you can apply. So Ben Kuchera comes out, and now he's attacking him on the comedic basis. Well, you've got to leave it there, Ben. Surely you leave it there. But he doesn't leave it there. Because once you've done this, you must then go to the next place. And the next place is Trump. Because you've got to bring Trump into it. Trump, definitely not anti-Semitic. Jews in the family. But like, yeah, we can make this work. So now, what he starts talking about is, again, this idea that, oh, Trump's at war with the media, PewDiePie's at war with the media, they're right-wing, probably racist, let's all just link it all together. And here you go, PewDiePie and Trump aren't hurting the press, but they desperately want to. Well, first of all, you're right, in a way, PewDiePie isn't hurting the press, but I'll tell you this, Polygon, this is a new low for you, and you are definitely going to feel this, one way or the other. And also, having somebody with 53, 54 million YouTube followers calling out your publication and saying, do not read this publication, do not support this publication, fuck this publication, that is going to have ramification. In fact, if they wanted to get mobilized and pull the same shit you like to pull, perhaps they could contact some of your sponsors en masse, talk about some of the things you've said in the past. I wouldn't advocate that tactic. You seem to advocate for it, Ben. So let's see what happens if it's applied to you. It would be interesting, wouldn't it, as an exercise? Because I'm pretty sure the number of people that'd be willing to send emails from PewDiePie's fan base would definitely exceed the people from the Polygon fan base and all these other goony beard men who think, you know, we must stop freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is a true enemy. So he tries to like say, haha, we're winning. Look at all this winning we're doing. Like, they don't even realize they sound like Trump. And you can see, like, they quote, old school media does not like internet personalities because they're scared of us. I mean, the Wall Street Journal did run a hit piece. And Wall Street Journal even went to PewDiePie's house and said, we will give you a platform. He's got a platform. The last thing he needs is your platform. Nice try, Wall Street Journal. Try again, motherfucker. And PewDiePie's right. But on they go. So he's now saying, he's like Donald Trump, see? He's Donald Trump, arguing the most powerful man in the world, gets much value out of bypassing the traditional press, and he condemns the media, and they're the same, look at this, and there's consequences, and yeah. It's just Ben Kuchera. It's just the voices in his head, just trying to make it look relevant in journalism. So do you leave it there, Polygon? Well, no, you don't leave it there, of course, because that would That would mean you had maybe learnt your lesson. Blanket coverage, constant, daily. They want to take him down. They're piling on him. They're like, off the top rope, elbows, boom. Here we go again. This time, what they've put out is the limits of free speech, where free speech should be limited, and to justify their coverage, to justify their ludicrous position on all of this, they've hired a lawyer to come in and basically say, yeah, contracts, no one's entitled to a platform, freedom of speech isn't under threat, and of course, freedom of speech isn't even the issue, you don't really have a right to freedom of speech, blah, 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 you've got white supremacists in your group. It's all bad. What does it all mean? Basically, here's what it means. Pewdiepie bad. There you go. That's what it means. So they got a lawyer to come out and say that somehow. Wicked. Great stuff. Now, keep in mind, Polygon is still trying to make out this is like just impartial reportage. This is the most fueled, driven out of all of the publications, clearly coming for PewDiePie, clearly trying to take PewDiePie's livelihood away, clearly trying to just keep dogpiling on him, kick him. Do you know why? They want him to, it's like the witch hunts in Salem. Confess. Just confess. The torture stops if you just confess. Just confess. Just say sorry. Confess. Say you were wrong. Say you won't do it again. Start listening to what we want you to say. Start saying that, and then you can be in the club, right? You can come in. You can be in the clique. It's going to show you what happens if you get if you show contrition, if you bow down to them, if you pretend that they've got the power, right? And they'll keep going, by the way. No, this isn't the end for PewDiePie. If he thinks it's over because he's lost a reality TV show, he's lost a sponsorship with Disney in his studio, he's potentially going to lose other sponsorships over this. It's not over. This is what happens next. Polygon are going to get some young nobody journalist to start digging into his past, talking to people. The other publications are going to offer financial incentives, ex-girlfriends, groupies, whatever it is. They'll find a scandal and it'll come out. If you clip no other part of this video, if you listen to no other part of this video, listen to that. And just be sure this is coming. They'll already be working on it. This is legitimate. I know. I've seen these mailing groups. I remember when Ben Kuchera was doing this. Part of the reason Gamergate blew up. They will work together as a network to take you down in any way they can. And if they think you made a Teflon, they think you're going to keep slipping, they'll keep finding. And who doesn't have skeletons in the closet in this modern day and age? And in an internet age, who can truly hide everything? You can't. They're going to get you. And they'll get him until he comes on board and plays with the team, the right side. Now, interestingly enough, Forbes came out. And again, Forbes, right? Business. You expect them to be relatively sensible. More often than not, Forbes has started dipping into this, how should we put it, insane kind of politics stuff. This is Paul Tassi here, contributor. PewDiePie's misguided war on the media sounds familiar. Well, sounds familiar how? And again, look at the checkpoint. 15 million, death to all Jews, he's a bad guy, gaming outlets, just on it goes. But he basically is talking about Trump and white supremacy. I think you have to go some to connect Trump to white supremacy, to connect PewDiePie to Trump and then white supremacy. I mean, you're living in La La Land. Hopefully, PewDiePie will move on. Well, when are the media going to move on is a better question. You can see, hopefully PewDiePie will move on, rebuild his relationships, and keep making funny Nazi-free videos. Hopefully this doesn't take a turn for the worse, and he becomes a willing poster boy for the kind of virulent anti-PC crowd that just swept Donald Trump into office. What's wrong with being anti-political correctness? What's wrong with wanting true freedom of speech? What's wrong with these things? You don't even explain why it's wrong. Beyond people saying things you might not like. So even Forbes got on board. Now, The Independent is a piece of shit publication also. This is a publication that employed and stood by plagiarists who had won journalistic awards and bursaries just because they were leftist. You go look up Johan Hari if you want to find out more about where The Independent stands on ethics. Also, blanket coverage. Now, the video's already been pretty long, so I'm going to go through these a little bit quicker. But just to give you an idea, here we go. Blanket coverage from The Independent. Boom. You can see it. PewDiePie brands media insane over anti-Semitism claims, but admits he made a mistake in Death to All Jews videos. And this looks fairly, fairly innocuous. Kind of reporting the facts. Definitely not just reporting the facts, though. You can see the blame in the mainstream media and this kind of thing. They keep putting it out there. People hate us. People hate the mainstream media. I wonder why. So Independent, don't leave it there. Keep in mind, this is the Independent. They don't really do stories like this, but increasingly they've started. When did fascism become so cool? Well, I don't think anyone's saying fascism is cool. I don't think PewDiePie was saying that, was he? But I'm not going to play the video anyway. But, like every young star before him, it was inevitable that PewDiePie would seek to separate himself from the clean-cut image through which he found fame. Compares him to Justin Bieber. As if it's a phase, I mean, which one is it? Is it a phase? Is he really a fascist? Is he really anti-Semitic? What is it? And again, look, it just hits all of the same notes. Nazis, Trump, Milo Yiannopoulos. They listen to the compromised, statistical aggregator, the Southern Poverty Law Center. Talk about Richard Spencer. Richard Spencer's a genuine white supremacist that says the white race is better than other races. PewDiePie, not comparable to that, by the way. But no, the Independent. Fascism has become cool, but why? When? How? Now let's look at some of the other stories the Independent have run about PewDiePie. And you might get a thing here. You might see a trend. Behind the cutesy smile of YouTubers like PewDiePie are the cold, dead eyes of Wall Street hedge fund managers. Not what? Why? And this just reeks of, jealousy. This just reeks of, sneering arrogance. It will be of grave concern to you, I'm sure, that the vlogger PewDiePie is irked with YouTube and is threatening to delete his channel. Well, maybe it is. Maybe I don't want him to do that. If a TV show was being cancelled, some people get upset about that. Some people like like content and don't want it to go away because content enhances their lives. What's wrong with that? Why are you condemning that? You yourself are a publication. You create content. That's supposedly, but this is what they do. This is how they go after people. And look, they're talking about how he's not funny and this kind of thing. Okay, so what else did the Independent do to sneer at PewDiePie? Well, you remember this one if you watch my show. Here we have PewDiePie. YouTube could be killing my channel because I'm white, so I'll delete it. That isn't what he said, and it was a joke. I'm white. Can I make that comment? But I do think that's a problem. What he talked about was how some people were perhaps getting an equivalent of affirmative action in terms of getting YouTube views. He was trying to say that he doesn't represent politically what YouTube want to promote. Well, that's true. They've proven it time and time again. And he said, someone top of the site might be someone extremely cancerous. Again, he didn't specifically say it was Lily Singh, but why let the facts get in the way? So, again, they try to make out he was a white supremacist here for an innocuous throwaway. And you will see these recurring names, these people with the axe to grind. So the Independent isn't even innocent, and they've gone after it. Here we go again. This was, remember when he made a joke about ISIS? Interestingly enough, nobody cited this. He said he was joining ISIS. Nobody cited this as another example of a joke gone wrong, of edgy humor gone wrong. And he lost his blue tick over it. And again, 6 months ago, YouTube PewDiePie stripped of Twitter blue tick over ISIS joke. Right? And again, ridiculous. Why would you penalize someone for making a joke about joining ISIS? Do you think he's really joined ISIS? Do you think he agrees with ISIS's views? Which one is he? Is he a white supremacist, or is it death to America? Which one is it? Does he fully support the white supremacists The only overlap there would be death to the Jews, by the way. But, I mean, everything else wouldn't stick. Nazis and ISIS are not compatible ideologies. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I will happily tell you that in case you don't know if you're a journalist who writes this drivel. So YouTube PewDiePie stripped of Twitter blue tick over ISIS joke. And again, they're like, I mean, it's just garbage reporting. It's like he just typed this out on his phone. So just really stupid, that's a thing. But anyway, so they reported about it before and tried to make him look kind of bad, but they didn't, nobody brings this up. Oh yeah, it's not the first time this has happened. And then of course there was this sneering piece. Now, again, this was just a general piece about YouTubers, but it just shows you how the Independent approaches YouTube and new media and people like PewDiePie. You can see here, Universal is promoting a film based on how many followers the cast has. It's come to this. As if this is like the nadir. This is the lowest point of human society. It's come to this. Film studio hires people based on popularity and unprecedented move. It's not unprecedented. Why do you think these actors get jobs? It's not just that they're the best actor for the job. Do you think every Hollywood actor gets a part because he fucking nailed an audition? Do you know people, like, most stars don't, audition. They just get a vehicle. It's called a vehicle. And you get put in it, right, because it's for you. You don't audition. You're hired because of who you are. You're hired because you're box office. You're hired because, the last many movies you made, no matter how bad they are, turn a profit. But it's come to this. We're applying that logic to YouTube now, and it has come to this. And it shows YouTubers, and the whole thing is just like, oh, God, no, isn't it so bad? Look, they've all got these followings, and it's just a terrible way to hire a film. Now, the film's obviously going to suck ass. That's not even the point. But to condemn YouTubers for being hired on the basis of popularity, go do it with everyone else. Go do it with fucking people who get book deals. Go do it with people who get TV shows, film, any form of arts and entertainment. There's a populist element to it. It's come to this. It's so sensationalist and stupid. So the Independent make their views about new media quite clear. Now here's something just to wrap up the Independent in a fucking nice little bow. This is unreal, because this is just bad reporting. This is beyond anything I've ever seen, I think. Now, the Independent is a piece of shit, like I said, for the reasons I said. This is bad. PewDiePie defends YouTube videos where he paid people to shout death to all Jews. If you watch the video, they don't shout. They don't shout death to all Jews. They laugh and hold up a sign. Andrew Griffin again. It's you again. Peter Griffin's fucking idiot stepchild or something. They didn't even shout it. What is this? How's that allowed to stand? Do you have any grown-ups at your publication, Independent? Can somebody intervene and correct this? And he repeats it. It's not even just a headline fucked up. Sometimes at publications, you don't even write your own headlines. PewDiePie is defended paying people to shout death to all Jews. Nah, didn't happen. What is this? So fuck the Independent in its face. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I'll bring you to the most disgraceful piece of coverage about PewDiePie. And I'm going to show you what they changed the article to first. This is Wired, right? Now, Wired, again, used to be good. Garbage now because it embraced identity politics. PewDiePie's fall hasn't fallen. He's been temporarily financially penalized after you guys, the mainstream media, made that what had to happen to placate you, no one else, not his fans. PewDiePie's fall shows the limits of lol, just kidding. Okay? And they're basically saying that, you can't just say it was just a joke if you say something controversial. We're going to get to that, actually, later on. Yes, this is a fucking epic one. I want to go into all of this and just show how corrupt and hypocritical the media is. So what was that report originally called, do you think? Because I'm going to tell you a little thing you might want to learn in journalism school. Little thing called defamation. Very big no-no, by the way. So what was it? What was that article originally called before someone intervened and changed it? Well, good question. You go to archive. Don't fail me now. PewDiePie was always kind of racist, but now he's a hero to Nazis. Emma Gray Ellis, by the way. PewDiePie was always kind of racist. What is the basis for that? What does always mean? When he came out the womb, did he do a fucking Roman salute? Was that his first thing? Was his first words, gas 'em, race war? Like, what are you saying? What are you saying when you say someone was always kind of racist? That is a fucking outrage. And I hope PewDiePie takes some of that $15 million that I'm supposed to be envious about, right? That I'm supposed to be upset about, that somebody's hard work made them money, right? I hope he takes some of that money, and I hope he sues her into fucking oblivion. I hope she is paying, him off in the year 2090. I hope she's working 3 jobs, penniless, like with just fucking torn, moth-eaten garments to pay off PewDiePie, because that is a fucking disgrace. I mean, I am appalled. That is literally the lowest point I think that this mainstream media got to tarnish someone as always racist, which expands the entirety of their life, by the way. That's what you say when someone is always something. Again, I'm having to explain basic fucking English to these journalists. He should absolutely sue these fuckers. I mean, bankrupt Wired, bankrupt her, because that is unreal. That should not be allowed to stand in any way, shape, or form. I don't care if you change the title. The internet is forever. You have used your platform to say somebody has always been a racist, with no proof for that. That is appalling. So that was Wired. But now, let's just embrace all the straw man arguments that come up. So obviously the mainstream media are now in a feeding frenzy, like piranha. Blah, 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 blah. They just want to get their shit right. So where do we go now from here? New York Times, YouTube's monster, PewDiePie and his populist revolt. So he's a monster now, right? I mean, what's he done? What has he done to be a monster? A shit joke makes you a monster. You'd think he'd actually perpetrated the genocide. You reserve the term monster, for people like Hitler, right? Nah, not what PewDiePie is concerned. The New York Times, they did this article here, just talking again, hitting the notes, 50 million, made all this money, it might seem hard to believe that anyone would want to watch a YouTube video complaining about YouTube's internal economic policies. Like, people complain, again, demeaning the form and the format. So they're just like, it's a populist revolt, it's Trump, blah, 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 blah. New York Times, right, are running this. Then, you can't even apologize, right? You can't even apologize. Why can't PewDiePie be allowed to apologize? If he's owning a mistake, when did apologies stop? Do you know what I mean? When did apologies stop mattering? You learn as a kid, right? As a child, as an infant. If you do something wrong, you say sorry, and people will understand that you knew it was a mistake. They will forgive you for it, or certainly, if they don't forgive you, they will allow you to just continue living your life. They won't constantly fuck you up. Because you apologized. Now, he's done that, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough. On it goes. Like, look, this is Mike.com. PewDiePie's apology for Nazi jokes shows that he still doesn't get it. Well, he does get it. He's embraced. He said, look, I'm sorry for the words that I used. I know they offended people. I admit the joke itself went too far. I do strongly believe that you can joke about anything, but I also believe there's a right way and not the best way to joke about things. And I love to push boundaries. And I would consider myself a rookie comedian. And I've definitely made mistakes like this before, but it's always been a growing and learning experience for me. And it's something that I actually learned to really appreciate. And I think this whole situation has definitely been that for me. And it's something I'm going to keep in mind moving forward. Should have definitely used more full stops there, PewDiePie. But I mean, how much more, what more can you say? But no, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. You don't get it. PewDiePie's personal feud with the media prevents him from actually examining his own behavior. He's examining it. It's been done to death. You made a shit joke. It's over. It's done. You keep bringing it up. You keep bringing it up. You're the one saying his apology's not good enough. You're the ones going after his sponsors. He's done. He wants to move on. Everybody wants to move on. You won't let them. I'm only making this video because, again, this should have been over. It should have been over. But this is media insanity we've got now. And again, there's going to be follow-up videos because of what's happening to Milo right now as I'm recording this. If you are guilty of standing up to these people, if you have followings, if you are a messenger, they are going to come for you and tear you down and use everything, every mistake, every transgression. They will hurt you. That is all they live for. These are activists who pretend to be journalists. So, let's have a look how things went in the past, right? Polygon. Let's go back to Polygon. Because Ben Kuchera referenced this, but Ben Kuchera's telling porkies. That's porcupines, that's lies if you're not from the UK. Warner Brothers settles with FTC over undisclosed Shadow of Mordor endorsement charges, then in grey, and not in the headline, allegedly paid thousands to YouTubers. Now, the Federal Trade Commission and Warner Brothers Home Entertainment thing, there was a big story when Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor came out. Certain YouTubers were given financial inducements to play the game as a promotional tool. And there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that whatsoever. All you have to do is disclose this is a paid-for promotion. Now, what's interesting is PewDiePie's name just got tacked on as if he was one of the violators. Now, that's not true, because PewDiePie actually did declare in the description of his video that it was a paid promotion. It wasn't front and center, but there were no rules surrounding YouTubers back then. Those rules were not introduced, and yet Polygon and multiple other publications used PewDiePie's name to basically highlight this issue of YouTubers. Now, you know from watching my channel, there are some sleazy YouTubers. There's a bunch of people that do dishonest shit. PewDiePie wasn't one of them. He wasn't one of them in this case. He took money. He declared it. And he didn't even have to. Right? They put his name on there because he is the face of YouTube. It is a way to attack the platform, to destabilize YouTube by implying all YouTubers are somehow inherently dishonest. That's what you do when you go for a figurehead. You tear down the figurehead. Now, FTC guidelines didn't come into play until 2015. The video was in 2014. So how are we even allowed to say in these new editorials that PewDiePie's done something wrong? He didn't. He absolutely didn't. That has got to be said clearly. He doesn't have prior with the FTC. He's not a greedy, unethical, dishonest YouTuber. They exist. He ain't one of them. And trust me, if he was, I'd love to chew him up. You know that. But no, it wasn't him. The rules weren't invented. How can you retroactively apply a rule? Maybe he's one of the reasons the rule was invented. But if a rule doesn't exist, you can't then just go back and go, oh, well, you know, this rule came in 2015, so that shit you did in 2014, you're going to jail, I'm afraid. Sorry. What? Obviously, this will be outrageous. That's not how it works. The new FTC regulations for YouTubers are a very good thing and have improved the industry immensely. But let's not misrepresent it. Let's look at Variety. How did they used to report about PewDiePie? This is how you know, again, these people have been, they're just bottling up this bile inside. And they were happy to have little pops in him just because he was rich and popular, and they're jealous, and it's sad. But now it's about activism because PewDiePie started inserting political stuff in his videos. But let's have a look how Variety used to report this dude. Variety said if PewDiePie... Oh, these fucking ads, dude. I gotta get an ad blocker in my XSplit, but fucking... Let them have their clicks. Right. If PewDiePie is YouTube's top talent, we're all doomed. Meet the gibberish, spouting clown who's bringing Western civilization to a screeching halt. What? PewDiePie? Now, as I said, back when he used to do this shtick, I didn't watch his videos. That's it. That's what you do. When you don't like somebody's content, do not consume their content. Look, how does someone you've never heard of get 2.6 billion views for his videos, which are part of the vast stable of channels operated by multi-channel network maker studios? Blathering like a blithering idiot, apparently. Foul-mouthed PewDiePie jabbers nonsensically to the fans he calls bros, primarily about video games, in a voice that reminds you of a young Bobcat Goldthwait between hits of nitrous oxide. Try this test. Sample a PewDiePie video. If a barrage of images and sounds that enthrall so many come across as positively incomprehensible to you, congratulations. You just confronted the cold, stark reality that you are horribly, irrevocably old. That can be the only explanation as to what separates you from so many others who actually appreciate this content. To look at PewDiePie slack-jawed is to look in a mirror and see your own irrelevancy staring back at you. So, hang on. Which one is it? Is the world coming to a halt? What is this? You know, this is nonsense. This isn't reporting. You're Andrew Wallenstein, co-editor-in-chief. This is what they say about you. It's fucking mad, isn't it? And then it's like, oh, well, maybe you're just old. Yeah, good. Maybe you fucking are. Maybe you don't understand media. I mean, that's another thing that needs to be said here. I probably should have said this at the top of the video because I doubt many people will have come through this long, right? But this generation of bloggers that have become journalists, that have become activists, they don't even get the internet. They don't even understand YouTube. They don't even understand Twitter. They don't understand forums like 4chan, Reddit. That's why they constantly report about it in stupid ways. That's why Pepe is a fucking racist symbol now and he's a cartoon frog. That's why they recently fell for this thing about the trash dove. Again, video coming about that. You know, they're idiots. They don't even understand the internet. The one thing they're meant to report about, they don't understand it, and they don't even understand YouTube. And looking at it going, yeah, he's a blithering idiot. Why is he so popular? It's the children that are wrong. Shut up, fucking Seymour Skinner, dude. Come on, like, you're going to be a fucking, you know, entertainment reporter. And, of course, just as a quick proof, again, this constant dehumanization of PewDiePie based on his bank balance. YouTube star PewDiePie grossed $4 million in 2013. Headlines. Look at the money. Look at the wealth. It's okay to hate this guy because he's rich. Well, I'm sorry, media. I don't give a fuck. Good for him. Then, you know, there was some other stuff. Business Insider. Business Insider, right? Let's see if this one opens up because there are another fucking people who desperately... We need your ads, please. PewDiePie taught YouTube a valuable lesson. So I'm like, ooh, interesting. Steve Kovac. Maybe you've got a hot take on it that no other fucking hack journalist has. But what is the lesson? Well, you can see here, the incident was an incredible fall from grace for the biggest star on YouTube. 15 million. Kjellberg responded to the controversy in an 11-minute YouTube video blaming the media. Donald Trump-like tirade. Oh, God, wait, it's the same old shit. Oh, you've even quoted Emma Gray Ellis, saying that it's okay because he discussed the sale of people into slavery. I mean, no one's ever joked about slavery before. He compared Leslie Jones to Harambe. Must be racist. On it goes. Alt-right. Oh, wow, dude, this is just a checklist. So, hang on, what's the lesson, dude? Because this just reads like everyone else's shit, Steve. This is just, you're just copying everyone else's shit and just writing words. It's like a fucking child who didn't study for the exam, but he knows there's some buzzwords he's got to get in. So what are you saying here, Steve? The lesson YouTube learned this week is when you tap talent born on the internet, you run the risk of attracting the worst parts of the internet along with them. And that's not a great foundation to build a new business on. Right, well, good one. Great lesson. Facts, by the way. All of these platforms that are censoring people, losing money hand over fist. I mean, go look at Twitter stock. It's fucking garbage. It's worthless. Wipe my ass on it. It's fucking worthless. You know, Reddit, failure to monetize despite being one of the most popular websites on the internet. They have influence, but no money. Can't monetize. Can't make a business off it. So what are you, who are you to say what's a great business model? It definitely isn't censoring people. People don't like to be censored. It's mad, isn't it? It's mad. It's crazy. People don't like to be censored. People don't like platforms that are run by fucking little virtue signaling progressives that like to take all your livelihood away as soon as you say a bad word. They don't like that. They don't consider that proportionate. So you're a fucking cretin, Steve Kovac, for thinking that this is a bad business model, when actually what's been proven is the models that work, the models that make money, are the models that encourage diversity of thought, creative freedom, these kind of things. Or rather, just stay apolitical and don't get involved in it at all, you know? Right. So let's talk about contrition. Other YouTubers who have been fucked up. Now, KSI I'm going to use here at this juncture. You know KSI, FIFA YouTuber, just as a personal anecdote, we hired KSI. I've hired KSI. I worked for a company who hired KSI, Heaven Media, when we did the Gadget Show Roadshow Live. KSI came, and he was a gentleman, really easy to work with, no diva-ish bullshit whatsoever, nice guy, certainly behaved himself, you know, drew the biggest crowd, I think, for the whole event. People were queuing up outside of this huge hall to see him, and was great, turned up on time, did his job. Certainly, you know, I doubt he'll remember my ass, but, you know, thought he was an exemplary hire. I've worked with a lot of fucking divas, and didn't apply to him. So when I saw all this drama, if you remember going back about how he was like a fucking sexist and misogynist, you know, I'll be honest, the rape face videos, which people still talk about, even though it's years ago, yeah, you know, I don't like that, you know, it's not for me. But again, if he wants to make those jokes and there's a context to it, right, then let's understand the context. If it's a character, let's understand the context of that character, you know. I don't want to just start shoving stuff off the table. But KSI is another guy who exists in this twilight of, he's an entertainer, he's a comedian, he gives his thoughts about serious political stuff. There's not a word to describe what this is. Okay, YouTubers have a very strange responsibility in a way, because, you know, very often your brand is yourself, but then sometimes you create a persona, but sometimes you want to be real, and then people start mixing the persona with reality. This is a new phenomenon. I think we're going to get a word for it one day. I think we're going to arrive at a point where we have a better understanding of what it's like to be an internet personality. It's not like being an actor. It's not like being a writer, you know, it's very different. So I think I'm always inclined to give these people some understanding, because when you're living your entire life in front of a webcam, literally growing up, adapting, changing ideas, thoughts, trying to be funny when it's needed, trying to be serious when it's needed, I think it's ultimately a kind of like preservation of your entire psyche. So obviously there's going to be shit in there people don't like or disagree with. How can the roadmap to your psyche be entirely appealing? So KSI, you know, got accused of being sexually inappropriate at the Eurogamer thing. He got banned from Eurogamer. Huge. Just people in the media. KSI, whoa, fucking hell, rape face videos. No. So what KSI did was he came out and he showed complete contrition. And it did a 180. The whole situation did a 180, and it was mainly predicated on this statement, actually. And this is what I mean about when you show contrition, you must let the media know that they have won, they have hurt you, and you will never do it again. I promise I will never have freedom of expression ever again, media. So here we go, back in 2013, you can see here. Shortly, this is the statement his manager put out, KSI's manager. Just listen to this. Listen to the level of groveling almost. Shortly after the 2012 Eurogamer video, KSI proactively removed it from YouTube and made an apology directly to Eurogamer. He wasn't asked to remove the video in question, but on reviewing the content, he felt it contained potential to offend and thus removed it from his YouTube channel. The situation was addressed and moved on from with Eurogamer. Between us, we decided KSI shouldn't attend the show so as not to reopen and wanted attention for the organizer or himself. It was a thing of the past. We remain on good terms with the owners of Eurogamer. We will continue to liaise on the best way to involve KSI or not at future expos. As an 18-year-old at the beginning of his YouTube career at the time, with no real guidance, he realized soon after the Eurogamer reaction of the influence and popularity he was developing through the platform, also the responsibility that was beginning to come with that. KSI is a character of JJ, a young man with great humility and politeness, and far from the character portrayed in the Eurogamer video. Sexism is not something he condones or wants to be associated with. He wishes to apologize for any offense the video of 15 months ago may have caused in the short time it was on his YouTube channel. References to it since and subsequently used by other people. In recent months, he has also been actively avoiding certain content. This is key, okay? This is the key line. He has also been actively avoiding certain content seen in the distant past and wants to be judged on the great content and value he gives to brands and partners without controversy. In the past 12 months, JJ has worked with many brands, channels, partners, and charities using his huge popularity to positive effect. Campaigns and content with said partners are carefully considered by JJ and always suitable to the brand's image and requirements. There is no denying his rapidly growing influence and how important it is to use that in a positive way. This is what he will continue to strive towards and continue to move away from any unfortunate content from the very early days in his career when just a young lad out to entertain mates and early viewers. This is not the more aware and responsible KSI, which is now developing into a true star. JJ is a huge talent and is one of the most influential and popular UK entities in the UK and globally. Content of the past will not be repeated. Again, we will not do this again. And he does not want to be misjudged on that. He is well aware of expectations from brands and partners and does not fail to embrace what is best for them in terms of his content for them. He is actively working to address any negative impression, that's any negative impression at all, he has given people with previous content and hopes the industry will see this. It's a shame this past indiscretion has been brought up as we had addressed it and KSI wants to move on from it. I don't feel it's right to judge someone based on an indiscretion which was proactively removed and apologised for shortly after, especially at such a young age. That's not saying it was right, as JJ acknowledged it was wrong at the time and does again now. So I mean, that is an unbelievable apology. I mean, that is like, that hits everything these people wanted, right? It's hurt me. I am sorry. I will never do it again. I will go back in time, erase past content. I will never create future content like this content, and I will actually use my platform to talk about the things that you care about and you think are important. That's all. If Pewdiepie had done that, then I think this rolling coverage is very different. Very different. KSI showed utter contrition. His management team did a great job there. And that's why you ended up with, other comment, articles, like I think the Telegraph it was. In fact, I think I got it here saved when I was sketching this video out. Let's have a look. Is this it? Let's see. Or is it, am I just getting a black screen? Nice. Okay, well, I guess that's not going to work. But let's try this article as well. See if this one works. Here it is. So, yeah. Meet the 21-year-old YouTuber who made millions playing video games. And, and they talk about, some of his controversy and
make
how
to order
big he
every
is.
single time. Sauce by hand in one of 11 crave-worthy flavors. Serve hot. Repeat for over 20 years straight. That's the way you become an expert. Wingstop, the wing experts.
There you go. You've had a free ad yet and a playback error. Not for the ad though. Anyway, so you can see, this is I'll talk school dropout, video game obsessive, multimillionaire. So this is after the incident. Now, at this point, he should be persona non grata, but thanks to that apology, thanks to his management team, he could still get back in. And look at the things they talk about. He makes these YouTube videos. FIFA's my baby. I'm living a lifestyle most guys manage. The usual fluff stuff. It's been a rapid ascent. His rise wasn't without controversy. He was widely criticised, goes over it, but his manager later issued an apology, arguing that the Eurogame controversy could partly be attributed to his youth. He was 18 at the time, and inexperience. Some in the gaming community have argued he still hasn't learned his lesson, has been permanently tarnished by the sex allegation, but the controversy doesn't appear to have harmed his bankability, as the queue of firms keep on trying to sign him up. And on it goes. And talks about his beginnings. You know, this is all, they just gloss over the controversy. They talk about where he is, in terms of, his overall popularity. They talk about his wealth, not in negative terms. Global accessibility, the fourth most influential figure among American teenagers. He was forgiven. He was utterly forgiven. I think there was another article that was published somewhere. And again, I think that was the one that wouldn't open. But in this, they said, watching KSI's old videos, it's like watching me as a kid. God, it's just cringeworthy, isn't it? And again, they completely gloss over the controversy. Because he showed utter contrition. He dropped to his knees. Now I'm going to show you what happens if you don't show contrition, if you're unapologetic. Look how they go after all of these other people who have platforms on YouTube. We'll go back to my old stomping ground. We're going to talk about Sargon of Akkad. Now, I like Sargon. I think he's amazing at what he does. I think it's an interesting take on breaking down political discourse, again, through the filter of philosophical thought and logical empiricism. And I'm probably not doing him justice there. But whatever. I like what he does. We'll get off before that ad comes back on the Daily Dot, right? So let's have a look. This is just in September 2016. Now, the one thing you wouldn't say about Sargon of Akkad is he's alt-right, because he's definitely not. This is a man who recently had his Twitter account suspended for tweeting interracial gay porn at alt-righters and Nazis to offend their sensibilities. Why you would get suspended for that, I don't know, because porn is allowed on Twitter. I follow many porn stars, actually, and sometimes they post GIFs of videos of their work. It can be a bit disconcerting if I'm browsing Twitter and someone looks by and it's like, well, okay, there's some action, So, but he's definitely not alt-right. Look what they did here at the Daily Dot. They talk about Richard Spencer. They talk about Paul Joseph Watson, and then Sargon of Akkad. They say he rose to prominence during Gamergate. That he, not entirely true, but whatever. Again, I guess it's easy. Anti-PC tone. Generally characteristic of the alt-right rhetoric. Well, if you knew anything about Sargon, you would know he's vehemently not alt-right. He criticizes the alt-right for collectivist and authoritarian thinking. He argues that they're reacting to a comparable amount of racism from the left. So in other words, you can criticize the alt-right, say you're not on the alt-right, but if you say certain phrases, we'll just say you're in it anyway. They've done this with Milo. They've done this with everybody. Alt-right spokesperson, fascist apologists. I got called that recently by an old friend who now no longer wants to talk to me. This is what they say. This is the echo chamber of nonsense. Well, okay then. Well, what else did the leftist media do at Sargon of Akkad? The Guardian, notorious progressive publication, barely even mentioned them in this. Could have done. Obviously, they were there, never far away. What did they do to Sargon of Akkad, a man with a platform? Here's what the mainstream media like to do. They issued a fucking copyright claim, a bogus copyright claim, to silence his criticism. Good on the fucking LA Times for picking this up. Nobody likes to be mocked, especially by someone who has the facts on his side. Nevertheless, using copyright law to try and silence the mockery isn't likely to win you any new admirers. No, it's absolutely reprehensible. And this talks about the time that he basically, Sargon, put a video out criticizing the things they were saying. And that was that. They issued a takedown for him. This was copyright law used to stifle debate. Happens all the time, by the way. And this is unforgivable. But then, do you think the Guardian, do you think these progressive journalists who talk to their progressive friends, who are also progressive journalists and activists, Do you think maybe this might colour their views a little bit? Do you think this might encourage them to say bad things about Sargon? Well, you know, let's have a look at some of the other, this is going way back. I mean, you know, the Times, for example, right? Like, look at this. This is insane. This is an insane thing to say. I set out to troll a while this fuss about 600 rape tweets, as if Sargon of Akkad was encouraging rape. He didn't do that at all. Yeah, I'm definitely okay. You know, this is 2016. This isn't old. This is all. You know, again, they're attacking him because he has a voice. Look at this. And largely unknown until last Monday. Well, which one was it? Did he rise to prominence under Gamergate, or is he largely unknown? You can't even get your story straight when describing this guy's background. Carl Benjamin was a largely unknown 36-year-old married father of two who made YouTube videos railing against political correctness from his comfortable house in Swindon. I mean, and there you go. Now they say that he encourages misogyny and rape. All the bad things you can say about people, they'll just throw it out there. It's just a smear. Look at this. Vice. Fuck me. Vice is one of the saddest, you know, kind of falls in journalism. Did some amazing, hard-hitting documentaries that are still out there for everyone to see. I remember talking to people at the Daily Dot, very high up, and they were like, yeah, I wish we could be like Vice, and we talked about doing some stuff. But then identity politics comes in, and it just ruins good journalism, ruins important work, and this is what that looks like when it happens. It's Vice. So, am I over 18? Yes, I am. Examining the right-wing British blowhards using YouTube to prove everybody wrong. Guys, I mean, I don't know what's this furry artwork here? Guys who name themselves after Mesopotamian emperors naturally think they're hot as shit. Photo of him. And here they basically talk about, you know, how Sargon is, you know, bad. Again, they bring up this, how he tweeted Labour MP Jess Phillips, you know, that incident we just looked at over in the Times, and they just keep talking about him. And then they bring him in with Paul Joseph Watson again and other people. That just, Sargon isn't like that. It's so surreal to see people who've never said anything racist, who've never said anything vaguely, you know, hateful, in my opinion, and they're condemned. In a British right-wing blowhard, I'm pretty sure, actually, he's closer to the libertarian. I mean, he's closer to the space the classic left used to occupy. And unfortunately, the left has gone so far out here about everything's okay that just by remaining still, you are now right of where the left is. But that doesn't make you right-wing. But whatever. I mean, that's just how it is. And again, let's just look at some other examples of how stupid they are when reporting about big YouTubers. Now, Leafy is terrible. Leafy does garbage content. It's not for me. But you've definitely got a right to see it. And if you're one of his 4 million followers, or however many the fuck he's up to now, good for him. You know, like, good for him, good for you, if you like it, whatever, right? Like, personal choice, personal freedom, it's the market. He's made some questionable videos, I suppose, Leafy, but look at this. Now, I guess the fact is that Leafy's kind of young, so Gizmodo maybe didn't want to pile on too much. But YouTube star makes money bullying people with learning disabilities. Because he he ranted at a video. You know, he does these videos where it's like they laugh at people. He laughs at people. You know, and look, it's... He looked like he went through 5 different strokes, he said of a man with a learning disability. And in an almost 11-minute rant that begins with Hitler jokes. I mean, you know, so now Leafy's a fucking racist. Like, I don't know, where does it end? You know, and this is how they report on it. This is fucking Gizmodo, you know? Like, what the fuck, dude? It seems to me very strange, you know? This is how they report on these things. And I guess because Leafy's young, maybe he gets a bit more of a pass than a PewDiePie would. But, you know, like, this is... Again, it all comes. When does ridicule become unacceptable? That's a broader debate, right? If somebody puts themselves out there, does the fact they have a learning disability mean I can't criticize them? Do I have to lie? What's the code of conduct here? There isn't one, is there? It's very subjective, I suppose. And you could say yes, it's a shitty thing to do, but that's not That's not where the debate lies, right? If you think something is shitty or not. You're talking in absolutes. So again, the mainstream, leftist progressive media will just demonize any YouTuber for doing anything. Look at this, right? Like, this is mind-boggling. Again, we got to go back to the fucking Daily Dot, right? Now, for me, again, there was a lot of pushback against Keemstar. You remember Keemstar, big YouTuber. There he is. There's my boy Keem, right? Always liked Keem. Never had an issue with Keem. Don't understand why he ruffles so many feathers. There is a very clear market for what he does. Think TMZ, whatever you want to say about that. He comments on what's happening in the YouTube community, and if I want to find out what the kind of drama is, I go watch Drama Alert. It's short, digestible. Keem always says my videos are too long. He's probably right. I like to do the long format. He likes to do it digestible. That's good. I mean, everyone's got different tastes. Now, here you go. Look. The incredibly stupid yet lucrative world of YouTube celebrity feuds. And on he goes again, ridiculing, people who have feuds on YouTube to generate hits. And yeah, you might think it's silly. But let's look at Luke Winky. I mean, is that real? Is that your real name? Like, how about the incredibly stupid yet not lucrative name Luke Winky? Well, let's have a look at Luke Winky here. Let's look at the important stories he's breaking. This sleek new vibrator necklace is taking the shame out of pleasure. Okay, good, good. The potato salad Kickstarter guy talks viral fame and embracing the hate as well. That's groundbreaking stuff there. These people will do anything to defend pineapple pizza. The creepiest clowns we're still scared of. The guy who played George in Seinfeld porn is now an internet. Like, does this guy think he's important? Does he think he's covering important shit? Who are you to say that this stuff is stupid and pointless? And that, look, your work is garbage. You write about garbage. You've never broke an important story in your life. You're never going to. You're not interested in doing that. You're a fool. You're a buffoon. What you need to have that level of self-awareness to not call others out when you yourself are everything that you're accusing them of being. So there you have it. Now look, this video has been incredibly long, and I thank you for staying the course. I wanted to do a thorough takedown, kind of just highlighting, look, the blanket coverage of PewDiePie, why it was wrong, why PewDiePie isn't a racist or an anti-Semite. He's not those things. Why it's important to portray him as that by these publications, some more than others. How the coverage has been utterly disgraceful and indefensible. How journalists are no longer fit for purpose because they are not journalists. They don't care about truth. They care about political activism, and they will tell any lie to target the people they feel are dangerous to their ideologies. That's what's going on. But let's just talk a little bit about the Mel Brooks defense, the Mel Brooks defense. And this is what I want to invoke for PewDiePie. Mel Brooks, very famous Jewish comedian. He has dressed up as Hitler multiple times. In fact, I'm going to read you a quote by Mel Brooks about Hitler, and he talked about him a lot as a Jew who obviously had people affected directly by the Holocaust in his family, among his friends, He said, if I get on the soapbox and wax eloquently, it'll be blown away in the wind. But if I do Springtime for Hitler, that's the mock musical from the producers, it'll never be forgotten. I think you can bring down totalitarian governments faster by using ridicule than you can with invective. He said that in 1978. And it's spot on. Why do you think fascist groups, dictators, tyrants, why do you think they attack comedy and satire? Why do you think it's important for these groups to remove that? Because it's true freedom of speech. It's a common shared language, no matter what background you're from. If you can expose somebody as a figure of ridicule, that'll stay. I think Erdogan in Turkey recently as proof of that. Now, we saw Salon, attacked PewDiePie and again, you shouldn't be surprised by that, and obviously Polygon did. So let's take a look at some examples of where they've kind of lauded Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks, a man who dressed up as Hitler, who did The Producers, Springtime for Hitler, a musical that kind of makes Hitler kind of look like a hero almost. It was meant to be deliberately bad. Somebody who has made multiple racist, anti-Semitic jokes himself, and again, not just staying as Jewish, as we'll see. You know, a guy who's like, you know, used the N-word, right, frequently in his comedy. Blazing Saddles, one of the best comedies ever. Wouldn't get made now. But look, so Salon seemed to have no issue with it. And you can see here, look, Salon.com, Mel Brooks, the only weapon I've got is comedy. So this is Salon, who tone police everybody else and condemn everyone else's language back in 2012, basically saying, how did the iconic comic become the king of unmakeable jokes? The job was open, nobody was doing it. And look at the things they laud here. They laud Blazing Saddles. They laud The Producers. Again, this is humor about Hitler and the Holocaust. This is humor about racism in the Old West and how America was built. And you can see here, they're just fawning over him and saying how great he is. And, you know, they say, like, oh, he satirized Westerns, and that was okay. And the humor in Blazing Saddles has a lot of bite. It's very angry. And look, we had a little choo-choo train that was running alongside that movie called Racial Prejudice. We used the N-word. I don't think you could do that today. I don't think you could do a new Blazing Saddles using that word. I think it would be forbidden. And it worked. Of course it worked. What better way to dispel the absurdity of racism than by making fun of racism and racists? What better way to take the power and authority away from words than just using them flippantly and showing the inherent comedy in anyone who believes in a warped racist ideology? So it wasn't just Salon that, you know, come out and fucking support this Mel Brooks defense. You can see here, Polygon itself have defended Mel Brooks in the past. So it's interesting, isn't it, that Polygon will, you know, Ben Kuchera, the editor, gets to make these racist anti-Semitic jokes. Writers here in a eulogy for Gene Wilder, they say here, this writer, Julia Alexander, 2016, this, again, not ancient history. Gene Wilder passed away. Fantastic actor. I'm not even going to say comedic actor, just a fantastic actor. And you can see here, the death of Gene Wilder wasn't just the acceptance of another loss of someone I didn't know, but it was profoundly important to me, but became a reason to revisit some of Wilder's work with friends and families. Instead of sitting down to watch another rerun of whatever was playing on TV that night, we threw on Blazing Saddles and commented on just how much of a talent Wilder was. So this Polygon writer understands context. That's okay to use racist words and racist language if it is within the context of it not being racist, something that a lot of the left have forgot. Now, I want to just show you a clip from Blazing Saddles, because I know I've got some youngsters out there who've never watched this movie. It's absolutely fantastic. It's one of the best comedies ever made. It's spot on. It's absurd. It lampoons racism in a way few modern films will ever do. But just look at this scene and tell me, do you think the left would ever allow this? Do you think Polygon would ever allow this, right? Because certainly this is edgier than fucking South Park gets. Just have a watch.
As I live and breathe, the Wolverine. I need the girl. What is she?
She's all right.
Just look at this.
The sheriff is in this. What are you saying? The sheriff is near. No, got a flaming thing running. The sheriff is in this. As chairman of the Welcoming Committee, it is my privilege to extend a laurel and hearty handshake to our new nigger.
Now, I mean, that's unreal, right? I mean, that's so funny. The idea of this white community welcoming a sheriff. He turns out to be black. They're like, what the fuck? How can a black guy have authority, have power, using the N-word, you know? It's a very powerful message about the stupidity within racism. You wouldn't be allowed to make that message now. You would be called a racist for doing that. You would be hounded if you made that joke, if that was a sketch. I think even a black comedian would get chewed up by these progressives now for making that joke. They like to tell black people not to use the N-word, as if they've got some right to do that. Now, all of this, right, you can just see, it's long, it's swirling, it's a maelstrom. I apologize. Maybe it's not as succinct as I thought it was when I planned it out. But hopefully it's demonstrated what the point I'm trying to make here. And that's this. PewDiePie may have used, Nazi uniforms, may have written death to all Jews, may have explored these edgy kind of talking points, and may not have done it particularly well. That's fine. You're going to miss the mark. If you make 1 million points in your life, you'll be sure to fuck some of them up. And this is a guy who produces daily content and is expected to be on, expected to be funny, expected to be entertaining. So not everything's going to hit. Some things are going to fall flat. I think he's acknowledged that. I think it's an area he might stay away from for the foreseeable future. But to try and kick the ever-living shit out of him, to take away his livelihood, to strip him of his money, of his fortune, this is unbelievable. This is character assassination. He isn't a racist. He isn't an anti-Semite. And the motives for doing this are incredibly clear. And when you look at the hypocrisy of how you defend others, how the journalists involved in this smear campaign, which is what it is, have themselves said these things in the past and yet would be appalled and aghast if anyone held them accountable and tried to take their livelihoods away. And isn't it weird how no one wants to do that? It's almost as if they were in all in one big club. These people are just idiots and fools and hypocrites, and they shouldn't be tolerated, and they shouldn't be listened to, and they shouldn't be treated as credible voices. The Wall Street Journal's original piece of reporting was spiteful, not in the public interest, and completely driven as a takedown, as a hit piece, the motives for which I guess we'll never understand. And just as a final point as well, if we keep allowing this to happen, if we keep allowing the people who express ideas that these progressives don't like, keep using language that these progressives don't like, if we keep allowing these people to be torn down and attacked, we're going to lose some, cultural touchstones. We're going to lose the ability to push back and explore things. We're going to lose our fundamental rights to freedom of expression. That's already happening. And people are going to be penalized for doing that. You're never going to get another Blazing Saddles. You're never going to get another great comedy like that. It's not going to happen anymore. And slowly and surely, these people are going to strip it all away if you allow them to. But the good news is you don't have to. You don't have to support these publications. You can hit these people where it hurts. You can ignore them, drone them out, and you can support the people who say the things that maybe you don't agree with, but you certainly agree with their right to explore this challenging territory. So those are my thoughts on it. I certainly appreciate you sticking with it all. But let's do this all again tomorrow, because now it's Milo and it's going to be someone else and it's going to be someone else. It's never going to stop. The mainstream media will not stop. They're not going to stop tearing these people down until they start saying the things they want them to. You're either in the club or you're an enemy. That's it. And when Trump calls them enemy of the state, makes you think, doesn't it? Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. See you on the next video.